So today we're talking about breathing. It's something that everyone does, but something that rarely gets trained. And yet it's so important that we train it. It's so often that when we're breathing, we actually breathe up into the chest and we don't get it down into the diaphragm. We have a lot of different muscles that help us breathe, and if there's any dysfunction in that, other muscles have to take over, and that's how come we get chronic tightness, and that adds into the whole stress factor with that. The better we breathe, the more we're calm, the better our nervous system is, and the better our whole system is functioning as a whole. So that's why it's so important to train it. I always try to think about your breathing muscles as the pop can, and your core as the pop can. Being that the top level is your diaphragm, the bottom is the pelvic floor, and then the rounding is your abs and your spinal erectors. If you have an empty pop can and it's got a little kink, it becomes really easy for it to crumble. So the strength and the integrity of it is lost. If you have a full pop can that's stacked properly, it's very hard for you to crush it. And that's the same thing with our system too. And that's why it's so important to train, but not a lot of people know how to train it. So today's video is going to give you some examples of how to train it. Now, I wouldn't recommend necessarily doing all of these exercises at once. I would pick one or two to do every single day. Consistency and reprogramming the brain how to do that, small dosages over a long period of time is what's going to make that change. And if you have any questions or comments, please let me know and we'll get started. So the first thing we should go over is, how do I know whether or not I'm breathing properly? So right now I have a cylinder around my stomach, and a belt works perfect for this. It gives you really good feedback to see whether or not you're breathing in all directions, not just out front. A lot of times when people say, oh, it's deep belly breathing, a lot of people just stick out their gut. So they just stick out their belly instead of actually breathing and expanding in all directions. So we're all tactile beings, so the best way for us to learn is actually to have that kind of feeling. So the first thing that we're going to go over here is just find a comfortable position to sit or lay down. It's up to you. And we're going to change our hands into different positions to make sure that we're breathing into it. So as you're breathing here, can you feel your stomach go? Can you feel your sides go? And are they even from one side to the other? And then put your hands into the back. And can you feel your breath expanding your hands back? So for our first exercise today, I would recommend you starting to lay on your back. I find that that's the easiest way to connect. Get something to put your legs on, because what that's going to do is put your pelvis into a little bit more of a neutral position. Eventually, it's a good idea to start progressing this into different positions, like sitting, quadruped, doing different motions. But first, we need to learn how to get that breath. So lie on your back, find something comfy that you put your legs up on. And my legs are just relaxed, they're not doing anything. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to breathe into that rubber band. All right, now that you've got that sensation or that feeling, we're going to get rid of whatever our legs are on. And now we're going to see, can we still breathe and bring your legs a little bit away from center. What I mean by center is where my knees are stacked on top of my hips. Can I slowly bring that away and keep that breathing going? So you want to start with the knees slightly forward as you start getting that breath. And if you feel like you can maintain it, now start bringing the legs away from your chest. And you may not be able to move very far. This is as far as I can go while I'm maintaining my breath. Relax those legs down. So now we're going to do the opposite where we've got the hands going and we're doing the same motion. It's probably a good idea to bring your feet back up just so that that pelvis is sitting in that proper alignment. So get your breath going, arms into the ceiling. Now see if you can keep that breathing without losing that expansion into that band or that belt, and let the arms go overhead. Now, of course, my arm range, if I let everything go, I could drop it all the way to the floor, but that's not what we're looking for, because then I actually lose the engagement. So I've got my breathing going. And where can I put my hands without losing it? And of course, the next step would be, can I do that without that support? So the next progression here is, can I start moving one limb away without losing anything? Can I do the opposites at the same time? Do the same side at the same time. All while keeping that breath going and not holding tension. So I shouldn't feel like my abs or my back are wanting to seize with this motion, that everything's nice and relaxed. And now just hug your knees in. So the next one that we can do is, if you're on all fours, this is quadruped. You're flattening out that back and finding that breathing again. Can you breathe into that belt in all directions evenly? Once you feel like you got that, can you lift up just the knees just a hair while keeping up that breath? That's going to be really hard to see. But I'm going to hover over this marker so you can kind of see how much I'm hovering. So I'm just barely enough for that marker to actually have space. And that marker is not very big. So get my breathing going. Can I lift up my knees? Can I lift up a limb? Can I lift up opposites? Can you lift up the same? And I cannot. If I do it, I will fall. Or I rotate and I lose my breath. But some of you may be more advanced than I am, so you have to play with what's challenging that body appropriately. So next we can do sitting. Now, once you've got your breath established, can you bring your arms up? Can you bring them out to the side? Can you cross your arms and twist? So this is a great place to start until you feel like you've got the breathing. Once the breathing feels like, that's really easy, we can start adding in different motions. So we can go from this quadruped position, and then we can learn how to flip, keeping that breath going. We can do things like going back into almost a child's pose. Breathing, seeing if we can come up, keeping that breath. We can do things like lying on our back, keeping our breath there, and seeing if we can roll from one side to the other as a unit, keeping our breath still. And by still, I mean consistent, not holding your breath. We can even do it in a Turkish get-up, a squat, a deadlift, etc., etc. So this drill here, you are setting a timer for a total of 5 minutes. What you're gonna do is you're gonna find a progression that works for you, and you can play with different progressions in that 5 minutes, but spending 5 minutes of breathing into either a belt or a band like I have. I've got like one of those booty bands that you can breathe into, anything that will be tight enough that you can actually feel it when you're breathing into it. If it's not tight enough, you won't feel it. So for the second breathing exercise that I want you to do is we're gonna warm up the lungs. So it's best if you envision that there's something in front of your face like a curtain, and you're doing quick breaths. So it's like, and the reason for that is it's actually gonna warm up the chest. It sounds counterintuitive because it's going to be more chest breathing, but we're going to warm it up for a minute. And then right after that, we're going to do 3 minutes of box breathing. What box breathing means is that you pick a number and it's even throughout a box. So if it's 3 seconds, you're taking 3 seconds in, 3 seconds hold, 3 seconds out, 3 seconds hold. And that's how you're creating that box breathing. It's important that the number that you pick, you're not ever feeling panicky, because then it's going to ruin the exercise. So if you only do 1 second, that's cool. And if you can progress to 8 or 9 seconds, then that's awesome too, making sure that you're not putting your body into a stress state as you do that. So for 1 minute straight, you're breathing in and out really fast. That was a full minute. Whew, it's a lot. lot. So if you're new to this, try 15 seconds. If you've been practicing for a while, try to go for a full minute. I think Kate thought that I was having an anxiety attack, so she's checking up on me. I'm okay. So once you've done a full minute of that, or 15 seconds, wherever you're at, then you're gonna pick a position to be in for a full, let's start with a minute again, but we'll go for 3 minutes eventually, where we're doing that box breathing. So again, box breathing is picking a number, same amount in, so 3 seconds in, holding, out, holding. And you're gonna repeat that pattern, okay? So we're gonna do a minute here in the video, but you can build up to 3 minutes, okay? All right, guys, so that's 1 minute. That's an easier one to actually progress the time on. So the next exercise that we're gonna do is a tough one. Build into this slowly. We're gonna let out all the air and then see how much we can forcefully let that air out. So for me, I'm gonna try 8 seconds. I know people can get up to 12, 15, 20 seconds, especially some martial artists or people who've been practicing this breathing for a while. So I'm gonna let all my air out, and then I'm going to really maximally contract everything that I've got left. So breathing out, and now forcing it. We're just gonna do 3 of those. So I'm letting all the air go out first, and then I'm forcing the rest out. Got 1 more there. Last one. And breathe again. Now you can do this with the inhale too, where you breathe in, and then how much more can you inhale? Breathe in. One more. So that is some different ways that you can incorporate breathing, practicing breathing, getting the exhale, getting the inhale, doing some box breathing. Are you able to fill up that entire balloon, that entire pop can, and do different motions? There's a bunch of different ways, a bunch of different resources on the internet as well if you want some more ideas. Breathing is so important. It sets our nervous system up. It lets us become calmer. If we have any dysfunction in our respiratory muscles, our body instantly goes into panic trying to use other muscles that aren't necessarily designed for that job. And then they get taxed, they get really tight. And that's sometimes why we get those knots in our neck that we can never seem to relax. We have to remember we've got muscles in our neck that can also help bring up the rib cage if the other muscles aren't doing it properly. Again, they're not the best design muscles to get it done, but they will do the job in order for us to breathe. So give that a shot. Give me some comments below and any suggestions for some future daily move ones. Have an excellent day, guys. Bye.